Welcome to Meet My Mutual with Sarah and Ava. Pour some wine, light a joint, or don't, and meet my mutual.
Miss Lugana.
Do you hear that? Glug, 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 glug.
Doing it on purpose.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I haven't drank in so long, my wine glasses were literally dusty.
You're going to get tipsy off of like one glass too.
What have you been watching?
Lots of Gilmore Girls. Have you seen that like meme, or I don't know if it's a meme or just like a statement around Twitter that's like people with anxiety like to watch things that they've already seen a million times because they know the ending and like it's a sense of security.
Yeah.
That's definitely me right now.
That's why I'm watching Vampire Diaries for the third time since March. So
honestly, it's good stuff. Oh, but I did see The Queen's Gambit, which you need to watch with your mom because it was good.
no spoiler alerts. I'm gonna watch that with my mom. But
yeah, it was like visually pleasing, you know.
Ooh.
One of those like, I mean, there was one guy that was pretty hot, but I don't know.
No, I heard the cinematography was really good.
Yeah, it was cool.
No, our guest actually that we have coming on is recommended Misfits. Did you watch Misfits?
Mm-mm.
It's a British show that's like
heard of it.
It's like it's not Skins, but it's like a supernatural Skins kind of. I only watched one episode, but she recommended it to me, and it's right up my alley for those who like weird shit. Yeah, and fucking all these Game of Thrones actors are in it. Ramsay Bolton, Mama Stark.
Oh my god, really?
Yes.
I feel like British TV and shows and movies just like have the same 10 actors.
Definitely
like
the shows from like the early 2000s are like the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of Skins actors in Game of Thrones too.
Ugh, Skins. I loved Skins. Wait, what's that other British show that's really good? Oh, Sex Education. When does that come back?
I love that show. That might be one of my favorite shows.
I'm with you. It's so, so good. I love the mom.
The mom's great. What's her name? Is that fucking...
I don't know. She's a great actress, though. What the heck?
She reminds me of Emma Thompson, but it's not Emma Thompson. I don't know. Wait, what else have I been watching? Oh, yes. I watched that Netflix holiday show, Dash and Lily. And as corny as it was, it actually reminded me of our conversation earlier that we had off mic. Because, spoiler alert, in it the girl gets the courage to stand up to a boy who bullied her in middle school. And it was like he bullied her, and it was like this life-changing moment for her where like she thought she was cool up until that moment, and then she realized she wasn't. And she like screams at him being like, I was only 12 years old. And like you expect him to be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And instead he goes, I was only 12 years old too. Where it's kind of like, yeah, it is sad. Like, yes, he should not have bullied her, but like also he was 12 years old.
Like everybody's going through it and learning and making mistakes, and they have outside influences that make them get to that point.
Exactly. Like I was thinking about the people who bullied me in middle school, and I'm like, yes, I still hate them, and yeah, they might still be assholes now. The guy in the show ends up also like still being an asshole, which was like accurate, but it does show that like they were probably going through something too, and maybe they had moments like that I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to forgive.
I mean, I think so. I mean, bullies don't just like exist. I feel like you get to that point because of something that happened to you. So we all have trauma.
Basically. I know. It made me sad. I was like, damn, that was really accurate. Especially because the guy looked like the guy that I was thinking of in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like this, like your stereotypical, like blonde, blue-eyed guy.
Classic bully.
Classic bully. Who's like, quote unquote, hot, but like isn't actually hot.
Right. No, he's like high school hot and small town hot.
And has like Justin Bieber hair.
The flip. Oh, God. Now I'm sad. I'm thinking about bullies.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everybody went through it at some point or another. And like, I feel like I just haven't left my high school or my like middle school feel like, when you walk through middle school and you're just insecure all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's been me every day since.
Oh,
And like things have happened in my life that are good and I'm happy in most ways, but at the core, like I feel like I'm still fucking 12 years old.
yeah. I think a lot.
Why?
I think most of us are. That's why it's our inner child. Yeah, I mean, every single therapy session I have, for the most part, comes back to middle school because kids were fucking cruel,
Yeah.
like
But see,
really
for
cruel.
you, it's interesting because you have like true, real experiences of like this person was a bully. This person said something that was awful. Mine, I feel like, was like a slow burn of like losing friends over time and watching them go to different groups that I wish I could be a part of, but never felt like I fit into. And then also just like little jabs that people that were my friends would take that wasn't meant to be mean or
Right, they were
intended,
like
not that
microaggressions.
right, and then over time, I'm, like, looking back, I'm like, "Shit, I can't believe they said that, like, that was really mean," you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, I mean, I got into that fight with that girl at the beginning of quarantine that I was telling you about, and in it, I basically was like holding on to anger for like the past 15 years, and I kind of
Oh,
just
yeah.
like I was just like went off. I was like, "You did this, this, and this to me," and then like afterwards, I was like, "She doesn't remember doing those
Mm,
things." Like just getting
right.
mad at her and screaming at her wasn't going to solve anything or change her mind, or like maybe she feels a little guilty, but like what do any
S
of us
Yeah, what
gain
does
out of
it
that?
actually do? Right.
Um,
Yeah, no, you're right.
I don't know. It felt good in the moment, but it didn't really accomplish anything.
That's why, like and I'm sure there's a way, and I just have to learn how to practice it, like, there's gotta be a way to just take that all in, think all those emotions, and then just, like, fucking release it, you know? Not at the person, because that could do more harm than good sometimes, but just release it out in the world and let go of it forever.
Like a little
Tell me when you know what it
yeah,
is.
I was gonna say, I was like, you Sarah, you should journal.
I've tried, I can't journal.
I like journaling, but my hand always starts to hurt, and then I'm like, my thoughts are too fast for my hand, and then I feel like I'm in Vampire Diaries. I'm like, wow, she can write really fast.
With good handwriting.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I feel you.
and then
I've journaled in the
but
past.
then I get nervous. I'm like, oh, what if I die like randomly, and now someone's gonna find my journal, and there's some shit in there that could get some people arrested, like for sure,
Yes,
for sure.
exactly. Definitely.
Never write about. I mean, I don't want to say never, but be careful when you're writing about shit that you did that can get someone else in trouble
Yeah, no,
when
you're
you were
right.
younger.
And they weren't.
And yeah, and they were not young.
I
Mm.
always just like journaling, I look at it and then I've done it on the computer before and then I just delete it after because if I
Mhm.
look at it too long, I get too sad and I'm like, well, this is depressing.
Remember during quarantine, I was like, I'm writing a book, and then I literally wrote like multiple chapters of like
Oh, did you?
not like of a
Good
book,
job.
but it was like a memoir type of like. It was just like a
Yeah,
nice way to write. It's like you write because I feel like when you're journaling, you're writing from your perspective, and you're assuming whoever
sure.
is reading it or whatever knows everyone. But if you write like no one knows, it like also helps you piece things together. That makes sense.
Did I make it in or did you not get that far?
I didn't get that far. I made it to like 2008.
A lot of years to go through.
And then
A lot of trauma.
I went through like every single guy that I ever hooked up with, and like all the shit that like the trauma that put me through, and then I was like, "Oh no."
Oh my
It was
goodness.
very
Yeah,
traumatic.
that's just like a re-traumatization.
It was, but it also was like it was like a connecting the dots. Like you see
Mm,
similarities, you see patterns that you did, or different types of guys that you would go for, or at least for me.
sure.
But yeah. So
Basically, we're all fucked up.
basically we're all fucked up, and now it's time for you guys to listen to our guest.
So be nice to people.
What's up, everybody?
What up,
No.
Ava?
How is everyone?
Good. Yeah.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
I guess we can start off with like introduce yourself. Who are you?
My name's Teresa, and I cook. I'm a cook, and I care about women's reproductive health and like doing food, creativity, and just being in that space. Yeah.
I love that. And so you're based in Philly now, but where are you
Yes.
originally from?
So I'm originally from Fairfax, Virginia, so near DC, and then I moved to Statesboro, Georgia when I was like 11, and then came to New York 2018.
Oh,
And I've lived in
nice.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Tell us about your journey with food and social media and like how you combined
Mm,
the two. And like where did Veggie Mom Club, which is your
Yes.
Instagram handle,
mm.
come about?
Um, uh, it came like 2 years ago, so 2018. So before I moved to New York, I started this Instagram called Make It Vegan, and it was like making a bunch of like typical, like traditional, like non-vegan meals vegan, and just having this Instagram of food and just like documenting that and just like having fun with it. Like it's kind of not meaning anything, and like just being passionate about food and nutrition, but just kind of just having fun. And when I moved here, I started getting involved in like learning about farming and sustainability and like what that means, like with composting and just being more knowledgeable and like with soil and just like wanting to know where food comes from. And I changed it to Veggie Mom Club like when I was working with this farm share program called Fresh Food Box because I would always leave with like bags of produce in my
I
arms.
remember seeing Instagrams of you. I was like, what is she doing?
Just holding bags of vegetables.
It's so
And I thought
cute.
it'd be cute. And I'm like, oh, this is cute. I'm just going to change it to Veggie Mom Club. Just like whatever, like
Yeah.
no anything tied to it. And at the time, I was just like finishing up health coach training and knew I wanted to be a health coach, knew I still wanted to pursue nutrition and just like work with people. But that's really how it came about. It's just a silly name.
I love it.
Yeah.
Did you
Thank
grow
you.
up in a food-centric household?
I did. So I grew up, my mom would always cook dinner and like we'd always like throw dinner parties. My mom just like loves cooking everything. Like every Friday night we would always have like Bible study. And so cause I grew up like Seventh-day Adventist and so it's like a lot of vegetarian centered meals, but my mom would always like make like meat and stuff, but like kind of growing up knowing like both like diets.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like every Friday night, we just have a bunch of people over, and like my parents would like have Bible study, and like I would set the table, and like it would just always be like a thing. I don't know, it's just something about being together and just like as like a communal thing, which is always nice to me. Like setting a table is my favorite thing to do,
Yeah,
and
I
just
feel like that's always the daughter's job.
oh my God, I know it's my dad's like set the table. I was like
Yeah.
okay, like, okay, but yeah, it's just like, but it's always been that way. My mom just loves to cook, and even with her growing up, she learned how to cook at a young age and had to like help take care of her siblings, and yeah, it kind of rubbed off.
Thank God.
Right? Like, thanks, mom.
Yeah. So you started a gratitude food series called Leftovers,
Mm-hmm.
that you describe as telling stories, eating stories, and the remnants left behind, which I think is a beautiful way to explore food and culture. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I came up with the idea in June, after just like always being inspired by deconstructed plates and like it's not a new thing, like photographers take photos of like food that's, left over and, ugly and gross, after a dinner party, whatever, but it's such a beautiful thing. And I think it's a cool way to showcase like who someone is. Um, by the meals that they make, how they, leave things left on the plate and just, are able to kind of just like share themselves through, like their meal and where it came from. And I wanted to use my friends and like people who inspired me in my life at that time, like during such a really like the height of just so much uncertainty and so much just like chaos. People who I knew that were doing really cool things in the midst of all of that and like really sticking together and like because everything was so uncertain, it's like we all were kind of like forced to go inward and kind of crave things that we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, definitely.
and so it's like I noticed that trend with a lot of people. I'm like I would just like want to document that. And yeah, that's really how that happened. And like I met with the photographer Brianna maybe like the same month, and like she shot photos for my website, and I brought this up to her and I was like, hey, like I have this idea, like do you want to shoot it? And she was like, I'd love to. And she like connected me to this brand, and it was supposed to be something else. It was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be a whole series for this huge brand, and but then like last minute like that didn't happen. And so we released it in October, and it just like I found another brand to work with me, and it's just I love how everything kind of turned out.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so awesome.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you get to try some like new dishes from that project?
All of them.
Oh,
Every
everyone's
single
gonna
one of
like.
them. It was so great. So we shot my boyfriend and his two best friends first in Philly. And it was just really good food. And also everyone was really drunk at the same time
Girl,
because
we got our wine.
Right here. It
it
helps.
was, oh my God, it was just like typical like like vodka and just, but it was great because they're all really great cooks. And like they were the ones who first inspired me for the project because my boyfriend Yuri, he went to Philly because he's finishing school and he came to Philly when quarantine hit so that he wouldn't be alone because he's like by himself in school. And so he came here and it's like they all like culturally it's normal to eat together and do everything together. It's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like they're always like eating together, and like I love that because you don't really see that, especially
Yeah.
in like guys, and especially like young guys too, like you
Yeah,
could just get
most guys in their
McDonald's.
20s can't cook.
Right, and it's like they have such a like close attention to the quality of their food and where they get it from, and just it's just nice. And so the food was great.
So cute.
Everyone was great. Yeah.
What do you hope that like your viewers and followers take away from it?
You know, it's like in these posts, it's like I'm sharing like, yeah, this is who they are, what they do, but also sharing that there's more than that. There's more, you're more than who you are, than like, you know, what you do. It's like your personality and like certain things that you don't normally see on a daily basis because, you know, on like for face value, nothing is really what it seems,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like every single person has a story behind why they do something and like what something like is meaningful to them. And I just wanted to show that. And so I hope to take away that, you know, just to like dig a little deeper
Mm-hmm.
and to ask questions.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's made up of all these little parts that no one really realizes on the
Mm-hmm.
outside. And I think food is such a good way to explore all those little parts.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah, because Sarah,
gorgeous.
Sarah grew up in a Persian household. So like Sarah, you
Mm,
eat a ton of Persian food. So
Yes. And we were
nice.
very similar in that way, like you were describing your boyfriend
Mm-hmm.
and even your mom, like food was about coming together as friends and as family and everything was family style. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just think food is such an important part of getting to know your friends and your loved ones. And that's part of
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I love wine as well, because it does that in a sense. It just brings people together.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, like being part of this world and, you know, having food be so important to your whole being and something that's really positive in your life. Is there any advice that you might give to somebody who maybe doesn't have the best relationship with food, doesn't have the most balanced relationship? And is there a way we can kind of change our perspective on our food to move towards the sense of gratitude that you're describing?
Yeah, I've been just thinking about that subject for a long time
Mm.
because like it's affected me a lot throughout the years of just like my issues with food as a teenager and like needing control and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And I feel like it's kind of an ongoing process, but the biggest, I guess, theme would be to not look at food as good or bad. It's like I'm still learning how to like change my vocabulary when talking about like for instance like fried foods. Like, oh yeah, I ate really bad today, so I'm gonna like make sure I eat better. It's like, okay, but why is that food bad?
Mhm.
Right.
You know, is it just like unhealthy? But like I think the stigma of just like saying something is good or bad, especially, and it kind of digs deeper to like culturally too, and like
Oh,
what's
yeah.
considered good, like, you know, good for your body and bad for your body, and like wanting to change that, and like how, for instance, like the Mediterranean diet is deemed as the healthiest, you know, yeah, diet for our bodies. But if you are, you know, located in a different part of the world, that you're not going to have access to those vegetables. And so it's like eating food that's natural to you and food that's more like in your native land is better for your body. So it's just like,
Mm.
I think it would be just to look more inward and just figure out like what works best for you and to just take it slow.
Mm.
Oh, I love that.
And also, like you mentioned, you might not have access to the food because of your location, but like even
Mm-hmm.
just like financially,
Yeah.
Yeah.
vegetables are fucking expensive. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's terrible, you
It's a
know?
Mm-hmm.
problem. We need to,
Yeah.
our whole country suffers from this, like how we think
Yeah.
about food and price food. And yeah, I try to live that kind of lifestyle thinking, okay, this isn't good or bad for me. Like I want it
Mm-hmm.
right now. That's okay. And trying to speak to yourself in a different way and don't
Mhm.
punish yourself for eating something that's quote unquote bad. And
Mhm.
also, I don't know if you do this, but I try not to think of food as like a reward for other good behavior too. Like food is fuel for us.
Right.
And
Like you don't need to work out to eat,
right.
which
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think is what so many people think. Like, oh, well, I worked out today, so I can eat this. It's
Feel
like,
like I
no,
deserve this.
you can
Yeah.
eat
Right.
that because you want to eat it.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
you
And I
know?
was going to say, even too much of a good thing isn't great for your
Right.
body, you know? So it's just really about just finding that happy medium that works for you and trying, just doing your best, honestly, is what I have
Yeah.
to say.
And like listening
Totally.
to your body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we all, like you were saying, of course, we all have different access to food, but we all have different needs, and our bodies need different
Right.
nutrients. So,
Exactly.
um,
Also, wait, are you vegan or are you just
oh yeah,
vegetarian vegan?
So I used to be vegan, and
Okay.
then I was kind of like exploring that. And when I went vegan, I did it for like another purpose to help heal a certain like disorder that I had, and it
it helped.
worked. It worked. Like it worked. And it's like I had endometriosis, and it's like you
Oh,
never really fully get rid of it, but it's like I changed my diet for that, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I turned into one of those really annoying vegans where I was like, eating animals is cruel and this and that. And like nothing against that, but it's like I was just kind of like beating people over the head with
sure.
like this vegan Bible. But like moving to New York, I was like
She was in it.
exploring. I was in it, and I'm just like, this is not working because you're pushing people away when
Right.
you're yeah. And so I wanted to explore, like during my health coach training, you have to be well-rounded, of course, and you're dealing with people. And so you're not a therapist, but you're listening to people, you're having to talk to them and, meet them where they're at. And it's like, not everyone's going to be vegan. Like it's not realistic. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to explore for myself, like when I was working with these like farms and everything and eating this food, I was eating meat too. But it was just better quality food. And it's like, okay, I wasn't having the same symptoms as I was before.
That's so
And I
crazy.
was, yeah. And so I'm just like, okay, so maybe it isn't just cut out all meat, cut out all dairy, cut out this. Maybe it's the quality of food. And then I was also exercising. I was just a lot happier. I felt better. And so I'm like, there's a lot of different contributing factors versus just one thing, like your diet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, that's why I stopped being vegan. So I'm like, I want to be able to eat cheese and like explore and just like have that process of being human without putting myself in a box and missing out of like, I just like learning.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
and it sounds like you learned that balance that you were just speaking about. That's so
Right.
important.
And so
Awesome.
then you started your catering business.
Yeah. So I started the dinners first. And
Okay.
so I started, it was 6 month, like really fast nutrition program. And I graduated, I think in February. And so before graduation, I was like, okay, I want to be able to like launch myself as a health coach before this, like let people know who I am before I graduate, to hopefully get things started. And I'm like, what better way than to have dinners and to feed people? It just seems fair, and like where I was working my job, it's like we would always have leftover food all the time, and we would donate to different organizations, or like in my case, like students, because my site was at a school. But even then, it wasn't enough. Like we'd have leftover squash, a bunch of like root vegetables, and it was more than I can eat. So I would use that food to prepare like my menus and like the dinners with, and yeah, like I had maybe 3 of them before I was asked to cater, and then like that's kind of like where the business like went into. It's just like catering, which was not the idea at all.
Wow.
But I was like, this is great. I love it. This feels really good. And I got to be creative, and I got to like meet people and just like see people be happy. And so, yeah, that's really what that turned into.
I love that.
like-
I'd love to join one of those community dinners one time.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
miss it.
sign
I
us
want to
up.
have more. I can't wait.
There's
I
like
really
nothing
can't.
better than cooking for someone.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, unless you don't like cooking, but like
Right. No, exactly. If you hate it, then it's like, don't do it, because it's not, you're not going to, you can taste the love, and just like you can taste I don't want to do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree. I love cooking, and I love like watching people take the first few bites of something you made specifically for them. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think I just like bringing people in us like together. I think I just like orchestrating that.
Yeah.
And of course, like having the meals and like the beauty, but like just bringing people in, it just feels good. It reminds me of when I was a kid.
She's a people person.
I am sometimes.
Wait, what's your horoscope?
Yeah, wait, what's your sign?
Aquarius.
Oh.
She is a people person.
I don't know anything about Aquarii.
My something is my rising, I think. I don't know.
She's full of water signs.
Nice.
Truly.
So transitioning a little bit while we're talking about health. So you also work in like the women's reproductive health space. How exactly did you get there? If you haven't already said so already.
So it's still a process. It's still a process. Right now, I've connected with one fertility clinic, and we were supposed to be working on like programs. And so like a part of like for me for health coaching is working with women or anyone who has, period issues that need help with diet or lifestyle, but like who have endometriosis, who have fibroids, who have, issues with PMS, and coming up with a program that's specific to them and their needs and their lifestyle. And so that's kind of like where I am, is like developing that, because before I was just focusing mainly on, catering and food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an aspect of Veggie Mom, but kind of the main role is just to like also have like starting conversations and just like talking about our bodies without it being weird or deemed as weird. And just like right now, like working on a project that kind of is all about speaking up on what we deal with and what people who bleed deal with. And I think right now my purpose in all of this, especially with this pandemic and still building like clientele, is to use food and creativity and everything that I've done this past year to showcase my love for health and like reproductive health.
Mm-hmm. So how exactly can food relate back to your reproductive health?
So it's like, you need vitamins and minerals, and especially for us, like we need a certain things like vitamin D and A and essential fatty acids, and just we need like magnesium and zinc and things. And so it's like eating those foods that kind of aid in the health of our reproductive organs is what's going to make a difference. Because, having a lack of vitamin D affects depression. It can affect everything, our hormones. Yeah.
We asked our Instagram followers if they had any questions for someone like you. Nice. And one of them was like, what's your take on taking vitamin D especially in the winter time and just overall health? Like, are you pro?
I'm definitely pro. I'm really pro eating a well-balanced diet, like eating those vitamins.
Of course.
But I definitely think it's getting a supplement, especially in the winter when it's darker, is necessary, because we need that for our brain. I
started taking vitamin D, which I've never done before, but I live in Vermont, so we get no sun in the wintertime. It's limited out here. And I was telling Ava last week that I read this weird study about COVID cases, that like of 200 cases, they interviewed people and 80% of them had a vitamin D deficiency. And I know that that's maybe like just one piece, but it just made me think like, okay, maybe this is something I should be taking during the winter. And I added it to my supplement list.
Awesome. How do you feel?
It couldn't hurt.
I definitely feel a little bit more energized. If that feels, I don't know if that's normal, but
it should.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Does it affect your mood, or you just?
It does.
Definitely,
yeah. Because it affects your hormones and it affects your immune system. But yeah, it's like it's a mood stabilizer.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I never knew that.
The more you know.
It's crazy.
Well, you were speaking about how you kind of started this whole journey because of your endometriosis, and I know that a lot of women, they use food to help with hormonal balances or periods or conceiving. If you're comfortable, do you mind telling us a little bit about your journey with that and how you kind of began to understand, the relationship that food plays in your, is it an autoimmune disorder? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
No, it's just like a fertility. I don't want to call it reproductive. No, it's just like
overall health.
Yeah, it's really just like a uterus, a uterus problem, man. A lot of people are affected. And but yeah, that's with endometriosis, or just like with food in general.
In general, I mean, a lot of people suffer from different hormonal imbalances or problems getting their period, or having too heavy of a flow, not being able
or they
to
think it's normal.
Yeah.
Like there are people who have like super, super heavy periods or super light periods, and they think that's just, oh, well, it's always been that way. But like there could be a reason that like, and you could be in less pain if you maybe explored your food.
Yeah. That really started, I think, when I was 16 or 17 or 16 years old, when I was having really bad pain. I was just like begging my parents to let me get on birth control, because I'm like, I found that this could help. And
I did that too. And all it did was make me gain weight.
And it's just so crazy. It's so crazy. Like, it helped, but it wasn't taking care of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It
Right.
was just kind of like masking the symptoms.
It was like
And
making it a little easier, but it's still there.
yeah, it's like it's still existing. And it's like that's kind of creepy to think about. And so, like, every year I would have to go to, my gynecologist to get a checkup to make sure everything was fine. And then also to get a new prescription of birth control. And I was like on a low dose. And I was like, I think I was 21 when I decided not to be on it anymore. But it was like this certain doctor's visit that really just made me feel like I don't like being told that I can't take care of myself or that I can't get rid of anything, or just kind of like feeling like my power's being taken away from me. My doctor was just telling me like, you need to make sure you eat like 10 cups of yogurt a day and like have this many cups of milk, very pro like dairy to get vitamin D. And she was very old school doctor, and like she had breast cancer and like beat it, and was saying that she beat it because of like vitamin D and stuff, which I'm not knocking at all. But I was like, there's different ways to get that, and like I don't agree with that, and just kind of just going back and forth about like different like diet plans, and just telling me like what I need to do without really like talking to me or like even seeing where my beliefs are. It was
like
just
it was more clinical.
Yeah, it was. And it was just very like, oh, you have a family history of cancer. So, watch out for this and watch out for that. And like at the time, like I had so many cysts in my breast because of like endometriosis.
Wow.
And they're gone now, which is awesome. But I had so many cysts. And it was like, they're like, oh yeah, you can't get rid of it, but watch out because it could turn into cancer. It's like, thank you.
And then that just makes you anxious, and that's not going to help anything.
No, I literally left and I was crying on a bench, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I don't like this. How are you supposed to help me? I feel even more out of control, and I don't have a say in what I can do for my body. And so I really just, but even like digging deeper, it was like, I had an eating disorder when I was 14. And so I was very restrictive. And then that lasted for a year. But then it's like, that's when my love for food and like the science behind food like came about. And just seeing how I felt, like, coming from a family that did have family dinners all the time, like eating well, and then not eating well because it was, me, and then eating well again, and kind of seeing like how I feel like in waves, and being like, wow, so like an avocado, this is doing this for my skin. Like literally my hair was falling out, like my eyes were pale, I was pale. I was tired all the time. And then I started incorporating like foods back into my diet that I like wouldn't eat anymore or whatever, and just like having this new love for food and just seeing how I felt. And I was like, wow. And like doing research about like what this like micronutrient it does to your body, and how that like translates, and how our bodies kind of it's just beautiful. And like on like a molecular level, and I'm just like, wow, this is awesome, and I want to pursue this more. But it's like in only for me to beat being anorexic, or whatever I want to whatever you want to call it, to beat that, I kind of just like disregarded all health concerns. I'm like, if I'm going to get better, I need to not think about dieting. I need to not think about is this good or bad, and I would eat junk food, I would eat whatever, but I had really bad cramps because I was eating junk food and whatever I wanted, versus like thinking a little bit more. But also, you're 16, but still. So it's like I changed my diet. That wasn't that bad, but I changed it because of the pain that I was having because of how I was eating. So it's kind of like a weird push and pull, like back and forth. It's like, okay, you want to be healthy, so we're going to just, eat everything, and just, but then also this is also hurting you. So you still have to figure out a good balance to like get back. Does that make sense?
No, totally. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
And I was just going to say, I don't think you're alone in feeling kind of alienated from a doctor, or feeling confused after.
I leave almost every single doctor's appointment crying. So
a lot of people have those experiences.
Yeah,
and
they do.
I do think it's important to listen to a trusted doctor that you you have a good relationship with. But do you follow Sarah's Day on Instagram or YouTube? She's an Australian like holistic health YouTuber. She's awesome, but she had a very similar experience where she lost her period because she was like training all the time and just eating really, really healthy. And basically, I don't know what the medical term is, but she had cysts on her ovaries, and her doctor was trying to push her towards medication. And she was like, I really feel like I can do this. Like, I understand, like, don't try this at home unless you're, educated in it. But she understood her relationship with food and how those nutrients work. And she cured it. And she was able to have her first baby. And like, it was
that's amazing.
I feel like so many people don't understand the mental part with like food disorders, like eating disorders. They
Yeah.
think it's like, oh, why don't you just do this? And it's like there's so many other
Yeah.
things, like whether you're super, super skinny or you're like fat, like you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's just I don't know, it's just not as easy as everyone thinks it
Exactly.
is.
It's not black and white. It's complicated. And it's like, yes, there's such a power to food. There is a power to food, and it does heal. But I also feel like it's more than
Mhm.
that, you know?
Agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
I wanted to ask you too, because you were talking about how you originally were on birth control for many years. We did have
Hmm.
another listener question asking, and I don't know what your knowledge is with this, but if you feel comfortable, can you maybe discuss your opinion or the difference between the copper IUD and the non-copper IUD, and then overall just your opinion on the implant? And for people who don't know, those are some birth control options besides the pill that some people are looking into. I personally have the implant, so I'd be
Mm.
curious to see what you think.
I'm still looking into getting the IUD. But I know for if you have endometriosis, the copper
Mhm.
IUD is horrible for you. So
Really?
basically, yeah, so it's gonna basically cause inflammation in your uterus.
Mm.
It's also like what kills like the sperm, and so it keeps you from getting pregnant. And so from what my understanding and from talking to my doctors and everything, it's like it can cause more good. I mean, cause more harm than good
Sure.
if you do have like pre-existing issues. But if you don't, it's a great alternative. I know a few people who had bad experiences, but they were allergic to copper. And
Oh,
so
That's
yeah,
not something I would ever think about.
right. And so my worry is, are doctors testing women before,
Mm.
giving them this? Because
Can you
my
imagine
friend
having
really
an
almost
allergic,
died.
yeah, I was about to say an allergic
Hmm.
reaction of something inside of your body?
Right. And she was sick for a year and she
Wow.
really could have died. And now she has like an immune disorder because of that.
I hope she sued.
I think she's in the process of doing so, but it's just, yeah,
That's
yeah, you
terrible.
really have to do your research with this stuff and like
yeah,
make sure you know what's right for your body.
yeah.
Yikes.
And
And
there's different levels of hormones. So of course, copper doesn't have hormones, which is
Right.
great. But there's other brands that have like a three year, listing or 5 year, and like there's different levels of hormones. So, and it's also great because there's progesterone inside and not estrogen, and so that can also cause a lot of like the moodiness and like the mental health issues, which is my concern.
mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will neglect their mental health for their physical health
Hmm.
when both are like equally important.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. I met with a gynecologist a few months ago because I was looking into getting an IUD and I was just saying like my mental health is more important to me. Of course, like I don't want to get pregnant anytime
you're like,
soon, but
sorry.
like my mental health, sorry, like I don't play with that because that was an issue for a minute when I was on birth
Like
control or when I was off.
what good is your
Hmm.
physical health if your mental health is shit? Like
Your
100%.
brain's your brain's an organ.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, kind of related to that in mental health and physical
Hmm.
health. I don't know about you, but my Instagram is filled with like dieting and weight loss stuff, even though
Hmm.
if you follow my
Hmm.
Instagram, that's not anything I'm about.
Hmm.
Um, like, so how do you think that this type of culture is affecting our mental health? Just like all those posts about before and after photos and calorie counting posts, like,
I think it can go in two directions. On one hand, I'm like, okay, good for you, that you're, doing this for yourself, possibly, whatever the issue, whatever the reason is, like, good for you. But also, it's just like right now in this climate, it's like this idea of something else that we have to fix.
mm,
It's like you have to fix something else. It's just more pressure for us, and especially if you're still like dealing, with trying to just be well and figuring out what that means to you. It just adds more pressure to you and like something else that you have to like fix and take care of and that you're broken in some
Mm.
way.
mm.
Yeah.
So, what advice for the people who do feel broken in terms of like their relationship with food, like but if they want to learn about it but they're afraid to, or like there's people with eating disorders who are afraid to start cooking because then they start thinking about everything that's in it and that is just a whole spiraling thing. So
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you have for them?
Same thing as I would do with anything is just like take it
Mm.
slow and just think about why you're doing this and like why it's important to you and to just think about how this makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel. How to sort of like find your favorite food or just trying to find some comfort in what you're doing and like one reason why. and to not, try not to, it's hard to say, but like try not to overthink it too
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. I have to say, I am so proud of you. Like, that's so amazing that
Yeah,
you
really.
overcame this eating disorder, and now look at what you do, and you're an advocate for healthy food being like a good part of your life. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thanks. So I wanted to have you on the pod.
Thank you. Proud of you guys too. You guys are awesome.
I have a question that's kind of random, but relating back to vegan eating. I know Ava and I have had conversations about cutting out some dairy in our life, and another listener actually had a similar question relating to dairy and specifically to how it kind of affects your skin. And clearly my skin is going through it right now. And I want to know, like, do you think there's a real relation between dairy and good skin versus bad skin? Or have you read any research related to that?
For me, I really think it goes back to your genetics,
Okay.
honestly, and also like where you're from. And like, for instance, like my boyfriend, like he'll drink milk because his family drinks milk. It's just like a norm drinking milk, and like his skin is fine. And
Boys.
here, but I also think like for hormones, like for us, I feel like I break out more when it's closer to my period, and I crave. But it's also like what kind of cheese I'm eating too.
Oh,
because like I don't always break out. It's like if I get like kind of cheaper like fast food cheese or whatever that may not be like the best quality.
sure.
Then yeah, I will break out or I get like a rash or something. But if I'm eating like really quality like food and like dairy, like it doesn't affect me. And I also notice I don't really crave as much either. It's like the portions that I want. It's like the quality food, and of course this is like a privilege, and to be able to like afford this. But like, and why I think good quality food should be more accessible and affordable. But it's like with cheaper food, you're not being satisfied. You want more and more and more of it. It's like when something is great and like it's quality,
it fills you up.
It fills you up, and you're not going to really want too much of it. And it's just like, I feel good. I'm good. And I think that also has like a thing to do with it. Yeah. But I do think it just depends on your hormone levels, because we are ingesting hormones, whether we like it or not. And so that can affect you. So if you are sensitive, it can affect you. I think it just depends on you, and like if you get a blood test to see like where your levels are at.
Interesting. Yeah. That is so true. I definitely find when I'm eating well, I don't really crave too much unhealthy food, and I also like don't need to eat as much just naturally. I don't try to eat less, but it happens.
Isn't it like a thing where if like what's the thing with like forming a habit? It's like takes a certain amount of time. So like if you stop eating
days, I think.
Or something like that.
21 days. Yeah.
Weird.
I had to do that with hot Cheetos.
You're like, okay. I'll see you in like.
I had to kick it.
I know. They taste real good going in, but they don't feel so good coming out.
No, they do not.
How is it now?
My Jewish stomach cannot handle them.
It hurts so good. How do you feel now? How is it now? Do you still crave it, or like?
I don't. I had them a couple weeks ago, and honestly, I was really turned off by them. It was like the first couple bites were good, and then I was like, I really don't want the rest of this bag.
Like, I'm done. I'm good. Yeah, you got a taste. You got what you needed.
Yeah. Whereas before, I'd be like, oh my god, I can eat this whole bag, right? with some lime juice.
Yeah, it could be. Oh my god. And it's funny because your taste buds probably changed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
guys, I'm hungry.
It's interesting.
Science is crazy.
Me too. It's so crazy.
So,
I love you too.
Speaking of which, do you have a go-to recipe that's specifically for comfort food? That was another listener question.
Do tell.
Oh man. Okay. Well, my childhood favorite meal has always been like cheeseburgers. That's always a comfort for me. It's a good burger. Just a good burger.
It has all the elements.
Everything's there. A side of a beer. Like I want, like that's just my thing. Like a beer, burger, and fries. Like that's just like comfort
simple
meal.
Woman.
my last meal would be a burger, fry, and beer. But like I also really like spinach pies, all of them.
Huh.
Any and all of them.
Ooh, your spanakopita looked real good. Was that last night?
Yeah.
I saw you posted. I was like, You're
like thinking about it. You're like,
man. We roasted some tomatoes and garlic.
Yum.
It was so good.
Wait, speaking of beer though, because our little like slogan, I guess you could call it, we always say pour some wine, light a joint, or don't. Like if you want to be sober, be sober. But you know, we indulge in those things here and then. Do you have any comments on like alcohol or weed and how that can affect your health and your overall well-being?
So I grew up in a very kind of strict Seventh-day Adventist home. You know, it's like no pork, no, jewelry. I didn't get my ears pierced until I like left college. I was 18. Yeah, and it's just like learning, as we all do when we leave home, but like unpacking things that you grew up with, and like again, putting things in category, what's good and what's bad, and what does that even mean, and who's saying this, and like what. And I feel like we put more pressure on figuring out what's bad and what's good, and that kind of messes up our health more than the actual thing.
For sure.
And it's just like I didn't start really drinking until like a year or two ago.
Oh, really?
And it's just because I've always been against it. I'm like, I'm not gonna drink.
How old are you now?
I'm 26.
Okay. Oh.
I'm 26.
I thought you were a baby.
No, kind of.
Well,
I feel like
you have
a youthful
Oh my
blood.
God. Okay. Thank you. Like, yeah, we're 25. I'm like, what? I'm a grandmother.
I thought you were like 23. I don't know why.
That's okay. I'll
She's
let you
glowing.
think that.
Yeah. We'll keep it that way.
Thank you. We'll keep it that way. I like my age. It's whatever.
Yeah, who cares? And nowadays, like, really, who cares? But yeah, you definitely don't need to drink or do any of that to like live a good life. I was just curious.
For weed though, I was always against weed for a long time because of like my family history and like being adopted and like both parents like having like severe mental health issues. And my anxiety and fear is like, okay, if I smoke, I'm gonna be like them. It's just gonna like something's gonna break and it's gonna happen. And it's like, even though yes, that is a potential like with anything, but I also kind of just like wanted again to explore that for myself and like just see how I feel.
Yeah,
it's so interesting because I have addiction in my family, and my dad actually stopped drinking, but he smokes a lot of weed. It's not like he replaced it, but like it really helps. Like people who there's people just with minds like that who like need something to relax them, and I'd rather they smoke weed than drink.
Yeah,
honestly, and I just feel like people just need to figure out what works for them. And just do that, because again, like this might be a little like contradicting for me to say, but it's like there's people who smoke until they're like 90 and they live until they're 90 whatever, and it's like I just think it really just depends on you, and like stress kills faster and more than anything else. And like even though it's good to take care of yourself, of course, I also just think it's just important to mind your business.
Exactly.
And just to have like a better like relationship with yourself and seeing how you feel. Like some weed doesn't always work well for me, but like there's certain strands that work great. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Sometimes I'm like really anxious. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I feel amazing and it's fine.
I used to be the type of person, and I'm still kind of am, and I need to stop, where it's like someone tells me they don't like weed, or like I'll be like, oh, well, you just haven't found the right strain. And I need to just learn that, like, it's not for everybody. Like, even if it's for me, because I much prefer smoking to drinking. I barely drink. I was joking with Sarah that my wine glasses had dust on them because I literally haven't drank since in months, essentially. And, but yeah, I think just letting people do their own shit. If if they're not hurting themselves or other people, like.
Right, that's the thing.
Just figure it out.
Like with food and finding that balance, like, of course, overusing anything is never a good thing, but if it's helping you, not hurting anybody, I see nothing with it. I like your mind your business.
Honestly, that's my saying for everything.
I haven't smoked in a few days because I've been out of weed, and like I'm not going to say it's been nice because I definitely would like to have some, but it is like a different type of mindset that you're in. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Good luck. Nice. Yeah, like being sober or just.
Well, I'm having some wine right now, but like.
Oh, okay.
But I would like wake up and I would smoke in the morning, and then I would like do whatever I did during the day, and then I'd smoke in the afternoon, and then I would smoke a little bit before bed, and like. I don't know. It's just a different. I thought I wasn't gonna sleep, but I am sleeping. So
good.
Nice.
That's good. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just exploring. It's just exploring yourself, honestly.
Everything's a journey.
I think there's this girl I follow on Twitter who like takes break from weed, and she was just saying like, if you start doing something because like you should never smoke when you're sad. That's what I'm trying not to do.
They say you should never drink when you're sad too.
Yeah, you should never do your vices when you're sad, because then it becomes a pattern and a crutch
Mm,
and like a coping
mm.
mechanism, and then it just becomes an unhealthy situation. So I'm trying to be more mindful with my substances.
Nice. I'm trying to think, have I ever like dealt with that?
Well, a lot of people do
I
that
don't
with
know.
food too. They'll binge
Yeah.
eat
That
or don't
that is
eat.
my thing. Yeah, it's like when I'm happy, I eat. When I'm sad, I eat. It's just like food is just, I don't know, if I'm feeling like inspired or sensual, I want to
Right.
make something that reflects that
No.
and eat it. It's like,
Your food is so sexy. So
thank you.
She's like, I
When I'm
try.
comfortable, like I can cook. If I'm not comfortable, like my kitchen, I was telling Ava, I was like, this whole pandemic, like I started cooking a lot, and then like I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do it.
mm,
Yeah,
If my kitchen if it doesn't feel right, I'm not cooking.
and that's okay.
it's true though. And
Yeah,
it sucks though when people have food, and I can relate to this, but like as a crutch, because you need it to nourish
yeah,
your body.
yes,
It's not like you can just quit eating food.
That's so true.
right,
It's like
yeah,
it's a fucked up dynamic for sure.
yeah. And even just making it, just the act of just like slowing, like the slow food and
Hmm.
slow cooking is something that's like really important to me,
And slow
and like
eating
using my
too.
hands.
Like
Yes.
cherishing every bite and really tasting it, I think really helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying not to eat while I watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
if I'm like eating and I'm not tasting it, I'm not focusing on like how good that food is that I just made, because that shit's
Yeah.
bomb. But
Right. It's like, damn, it's gone.
I'm too
Okay.
busy. I'm too busy watching Misfits.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God. Yeah. We can talk later.
We talked about it in our little like intro thing.
We
so.
did.
Instagram questions. Oh, what is something
Hmm.
you would like to see changed in healthcare?
That's
That's a big question. It's a loaded question.
I want to see conversations,
Mm.
actual conversations. And I know it's like, again, another perspective too. I'm not a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and I know they're limited with time and everything. It's a crunch, and they have a lot of patience and everything. But I just think taking that one step, like just being a little bit slower with learning about your patient, is gonna make a big difference.
That's what the
Like,
holistic like mindset is, right?
exactly. It's like listening to this
Okay.
person and like not just talking at them, but talking to them and kind of letting them come to their own conclusions about themselves and what they feel and what they need to work on, and just like building that narrative between like that person and like themselves, and like just promoting more like advocating for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I just wish that we would, I guess healthcare, I just wish that we had more of like accessibility, for one, to even see a doctor and afford one, but just two, just to be able to like talk to your doctor and not being afraid and not feel like, okay, I'm going to tell this person this and they're going to prescribe me a pill and it's
Right.
going to cause even more issues,
Mm-hmm.
or not, but still.
Or like make it seem like it's your fault that you have this problem, or like
Yes, and blaming.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big thing too.
there's quite a bit of judgment I've found in healthcare.
I remember I was at a
Yes.
doctor's office one time. We were like talking about something, and I just started crying. And she was like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, "Because it's a sensitive subject, and you're upsetting me." Like,
Yeah,
And it sucks to
exactly.
have to like go through multiple doctors and open up to all of
Mhm.
them to like find one that
Mhm.
works. That's just
Yep.
shitty.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Just like with therapy,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
already the mental gymnastics of even just trying to find someone you can trust, that you can trust them with your problems.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just wish that we would have more just like longer conversations and to listen and not just automatically assume.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's lazy. It's lazy.
It is
definitely.
lazy.
And of course, it's like subjective, and right now, especially,
Mhm.
like big thank you to all the
Yeah,
healthcare workers out there. This is
of
an
course.
insane
Mhm.
time, but I think
Yeah,
overall, yeah, we're due for a little bit of a change on the personal
yeah.
level. Did you want to talk about, lastly, sorry, you mentioned
Mm.
earlier when we were chatting earlier this week, you're working on a project right now called Not Your Body.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about that?
Mhm. Yes. I'm really excited for this one. It's a way just to show like the foundation of like what I believe in and what I want to do with like health coaching and my career and the spaces that I want to work in. It's basically, I don't know if I should give too much away. I don't know, but
Whatever
it's
you feel
basically
comfortable
taking
with.
the experiences of four of my friends that deal with different menstrual disorders, and having them speak on that. And it's like kind of bringing in elements of what health coaching is like. And so the kind of questions that I would ask my clients, I asked them. So like their experiences with, their bodies and like doctors. So it's like, it's kind of just highlighting the experiences of people who bleed and what it's like to grow up as a woman or someone who bleeds, and, you know, dealing with doctors and feeling very out of control from their bodies and like feeling like they don't have a say, but then also how they empower themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And just how, at face value, again, like nothing is what it seems. You look at, you know, for instance, like you two, it's like two beautiful women, but you never know, like, oh, you could have endometriosis, you could have this, and it's something so ugly and hurtful, but yet you are carrying on and doing what you have to do. And it's like no one sees that. And, you know, it's like you're a woman, your place is in the kitchen, your place is in the bedroom, your place is whatever. It's like, no, I'm dealing with this shit and I'm also like taking over the world. You know what I mean? And so it's like I just want to show that. And I feel like I'm tired of talking about women's health care, reproductive health. I'm tired of like writing about it. I want to actually like show a visual and then use food as like a symbolism to showcase like these different disorders and like what that looks like. And it's like, it's gross, you know, but then, so it's like mixing video and just like food and like, you know, like stills and things and just like kind of being a big project. Yeah. I'm really excited.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, so I guess lastly, as we wrap up, you also, you have a cookbook coming out in December, which is super exciting. What can we expect to see in it?
Recipes. Yeah, I would hope so. It's like, what the fuck is coming here? Of course, recipes for my friends, but even just like cool, even more detail about these people and like their cool items, because it's also like an object story too. And so it's like in the series, like on Instagram, it's like a light feature of everyone's like favorite things. And it's like with Rumi that I paired with, who's like, there's a really amazing brand to tell stories through objects and like design beautiful furniture and things. It's like everyone had their favorite kitchen items and like, you know, the story behind them. But also it's like for the cookbook, it's like items of their things that like make them them. And, you know, it's just another thing to describe someone.
Wow.
You know, it's, yeah.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Is it going to be printed or is it all digital?
So I'm gonna do digital first, and then like later I want to have like physical copies to sell, and just like figuring out like who to sell it to and like what that looks like. But for now, it would be digital.
You can sell it. You can sell it to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Please.
I'll buy it.
Heck
Please
yeah.
send us the link when that comes out so we can share it with everybody.
I will.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I so will. Thank you.
Well, you kind of already did, but is there anything else that you would like to promo?
No. Not right now. Right now, it's just a lot of like building and getting everything wrapped up. But like for 2021, it's like I plan to have everything like launched.
You're
stuff,
planting
and, like,
all the seeds.
I'm planting the seeds now and getting everything finished. And yeah, I want to have start, you know, building like clientele with like health coaching and everything. But yeah, really just like, you know, following on Instagram. That's really the biggest thing right now.
At Veggie Mom Club Official?
Yes.
The cutest name.
Yeah, really.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
I deleted my other account.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for chatting with us. I am admiring you and your work in the community and everything you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We appreciate you so much, and I am looking forward to see what happens for you in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Big things are coming.
Thank you.
Yes, I see it.
You.
All right.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks. Bye, Teresa.
Hi, girl.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Meet My Mutual. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and be sure to tell your friends about us. We welcome you to connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Meet My Mutual. Thank you so much for the support. We'll see you next time on Meet My Mutual.